everybody. Welcome back to a Thursday evening live stream. It's a spooky special here at the Jayda InStitches show. Tomorrow is Halloween, and we thought we'd have a little fun ahead of the big day. So I wanted to make some decor, a little bit of last-minute decor for the house, and some gigantic spiders were on the docket. And of course, a big spider needs a big home. In particular, a big web. So that's what we are going to do for part 2. If you missed the first spider tutorial, I've got the live linked in the description box down below. I think that video is still processing from earlier this afternoon. So the timestamps may not be available yet, but it should finish processing within a few hours, I would think, and the timestamps will be there. So you can pop back in at any time and check that out. But first, we're going to make ourselves a giant web. So welcome back, everybody. I'm so glad to see you all here. We are going to make a giant spider web. I'm going to use a size 6 super bulky weight yarn. I've got white because that's the obvious choice, I think. But I wanted to just sort of mention in the last live stream, I said you could make your giant spiders in crazy colors if you wanted. Like I made this one in sparkly orange. And you know, you could make it in a lime green. It's Halloween. They can be big and spooky and crazy. And I'd say tropical spiders come in lots of different colors. And I just thought too that a great big bright green spider web would be kind of neat. So I wanted to show you that. And also, if you have any of that glow in the dark yarn, that would also make a great spider or a great web, in particular a great web. So I'm going to use the size 6 super bulky weight yarn. You can use a size 6 super bulky weight yarn in any kind of fiber. This is that blanket yarn, so it's that polyester sort of soft stuff. But if you don't have a super size 6 bulky weight yarn or super bulky yarn, you can always hold several strands together, like 2 regular weight or maybe 3 DK lightweight size 3 yarns. You know, you could probably get away if you have a really thick size 5 yarn, you could probably just get away with 1 strand of that. Spiders' webs are delicate and lacy, and they kind of hang when they get covered in dew. So you don't have to worry about it being tight stitching. If it's a bit loose, that's fine. I'm using a big hook with my yarn. This is a 10 millimeter. Clover calls it an N or a P because I think there's some confusion as to which letter actually belongs to the 10 millimeter, but I think at this point it doesn't matter. It's a big hook. You can use whatever really big hook you have, 8 millimeter, 9 millimeter, 10 millimeter, whatever. Pair of scissors, a yarn needle, maybe a stitch marker might be handy. I'm going to have my creepy crawlies hanging around. A little bit of ASMR there. I'm going to have them hanging around so I can kind of gauge how big I want to make this web. Making a spider's web, we've made several spider's webs before here, and I'm going to use the same concept. So basically, it is a tall post stitch, like a double crochet or an extended double crochet. Goodness me, Emily, thank you for picking up a pattern. Or a treble crochet interspersed with a bunch of chains. And every row you're on is the number of chains between your posts. So for example, if you're on row 1, there's 1 chain between your post stitches. If you're on row 2, there are 2 chains between your post stitches. If you're on row 3, there are 3 chains between your post stitches. Your post stitches always line up one on top of each other. They're always the same kind of stitch. And you know which row you're on because of the number of chains between your posts. So very easy, simple pattern to follow. I'm going to pull out my white yarn. I guess I'll just pull from the outside here. It's already kind of opened up. So let's do that. And if it gets a little too dark, let me know. The sun is already starting to set here. And I don't want it to get too dark on the craft table. I can see pretty well because I've got a nice bright light in my face, but you know, if it feels a little dark out on your end, let me know. I can always try and turn on another light. All right, let's get my scissors, my yarn needle out of the way. I'm gonna back him up a little bit, and here we go. Easy peasy. Let's grab our yarn, make a slip knot. And we're going to chain 10. We want a nice big sort of ring to start with. So you're going to take your chain of 10, join with a slip stitch to the first chain to make a ring. And this is the center of our web. And here we go. We're going to chain 5. This chain 5 counts as an extended double crochet chain 1. You can also use a treble crochet if you want. I just have been sort of in the mood to use the extended double crochet lately. So it's a slightly taller stitch than a double. So chain 5, it counts as an extended double crochet chain 1. And 23 times into this ring, we are going to work an extended double crochet chain 1. So it looks like this. Yarn over, pick up a loop by sticking your hook through that ring, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull back through 2 loops on your hook, chain 1, yarn over, pull back through 2. So that's an extended double crochet, chain 1. You're going to do that 22 times more, 23 times in total. And here we go. Extended double crochet, chain 1. Extended double crochet, chain 1. And what you're going to wind up getting is this sort of open work look. I've got this loop happening here. I want that, it's going to be nice and fluffy because I'm using that blanket weight yarn. Like I said, you could also use a treble crochet, which is yarn over twice, pick up a loop, pull over, yarn over, pull back through 2, 3 times, but it's entirely up to you. Remember to chain 1 in between your tall stitches. Hello, Becky. Hello, everybody. Thank you for dropping by and spending some time. The giant spider live tutorial is linked in the description box above, but you can, or below, you can check him out anytime you want. Doesn't matter what order you make these in. You could make the giant spider and then make the web. You could make the web and then make the giant spider. Doesn't matter. So let's see here. That's my chain 5. That counts as number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 so far. I've got 16 more to go. Is that a knot? Oh yes, that's a knot. So I'm going to use the extended double crochet for row 1, and then maybe I'll try the treble crochet for row 2, just so you can sort of see how the 2 stitches differ a little bit, but they're both about the same height. And later on tonight, possibly early tomorrow, a full pattern for both the giant spider and the web will be available in the Etsy shop. So I've just sort of been working on this as we go today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Ooh, gotta keep pushing them back. 8 more to go. Now you can technically start one of these with fewer if you want. I might do fewer. Like I said, I'm kind of messing with this as I go. You know what? I think I'm going to make it fewer. Let's try what looks good. Maybe, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull up the internet I'm going to look at Google Images and I'm going to see what the average spider web starts with. They're all kind of the same. I'm sure that some of them are a little bit different, but let's see here. Maybe 12? 12 or 16? Oh, there's a whole bunch on that one. Ooh, creepy. Maybe 8? Tell you what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let's do 12. Let's make this a base of 12. You can make this as many as you want, so there are no rules here. And I'm just going to sort of shuffle these around. This is another reason I like the chained ring for the start of this. This is a spooky spider web and it can be made any size you want. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I'm going to go 12. So the chain 5 at the beginning counts as an extended double crochet chain 1. I've now got 11 more extended double crochet chain 1s. Don't forget your last chain 1. Find the 4th chain from the bottom or the 2nd chain away from the top and join with a slip stitch. And then if you want, you can just sort of like shuffle those big stitches around so that it kind of fits evenly around that ring, because that's what I want. I want them to fit somewhat evenly around the ring. The whole point of a spider's web is that it kind of drapes when you've got it hanging. So there we go. Is 12 enough? Maybe I'll do 16. The more the merrier? What do you guys think? I'm going to have a little sip of my tea. I think 12 or 16. 12 or 16. Some of them are really, really big. Maybe I need to do 16 instead of 12. We want to see what looks best. I want there to be a nice big open circle. So I'm going to try 16. And then we'll decide. So here's 16. 16 might be the magic number. Let's find out. You can use any yarn you want, Dawn. I'm using the white blanket yarn because I thought it would look kind of nice and fluffy and soft with my big spider hanging off of it. But you can use regular size 4 and just pair up a couple strands together if you want. That'll approximate it just fine. 12 looked good, said Amanda. 12, says Charlie. So there's 16. I feel like that's a little more even, but I can do 12 too. I don't know. There's 16 will make it quite large. 12 might be a number that 12, 16, maybe 12 is, Charlie likes 12. T-Ray likes 16. Remember, I can also start with a slightly smaller circle. You know what, gang? Let's try. So that's, okay, let's take a little snapshot of this visually. This is chain 10 and 16 posts. So 16 extended double crochets with chain 1s in between them. Peace Frog likes the 16 as well. I like the 16. Amanda likes the 16. Looks good too, she says. You know, well, 16, 12. 12 would be smaller. So there's 16. Just for fun, because I can crochet quickly if I want to. Let's try a slightly smaller circle to start with. I'll even start that all over again. So that was a chain of 10 in a ring and 16 extended double crochets with chain 1s in between. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's say there's a chain of 6. Join with a slip stitch to make a ring. Chain 5. So that still counts as an extended double crochet chain 1 or a treble crochet chain 1. Here's what the treble crochet looks like. Ooh, trebles are tricky when they're using the big thick blanket yarn. So there's the taller stitches, the trebles. Trebles and extended double crochets are pretty much the same size. It's just that there's fewer yarn overs when you're doing the extended double crochet. So that's kind of one of the reasons I like to use the extended double crochet right now. I also find it a lot easier to do those with this thick blanket yarn. The trebles are really tall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 so far. Carol liked the 16. It seemed to lie flatter. So we're going to try 12 with a smaller ring. And I also agree that a smaller circle would make it more tight like a real spider, says TT. And I agree. The center of a lot of spiders' webs are very, very small. Because dude needs a place to hang out. So let's see what I'm up to here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 2 more. I think 12 might be the magic number. We'll see. So that is, I believe, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 trebles as opposed to the extended double crochet, but either or, with a chain 1 space in between. And that is 12 based on a row of a sort of a chain ring of 6. What do you guys think? Oh, T-Ray's going to use thread size 10. Do it. We've got, I'll make sure this is also linked in the description box later on, but we do have a few we did a tutorial and I think we did a live stream of the original spider's web that we did, and it was just sort of made to be a coaster, very fine, used like thread. And then last year we did it with beads to make it kind of look like there was things caught in the web, and I think we did it on a live stream. So this is kind of following the same concept, but I wanted it to be extra big for one of these guys to hang out in. So much nicer, says TT. So Peggy likes the 12. I agree, the smaller circle in the middle is the better way to start. So I'm going to go with chain 6, make a ring, and then 12 extended double crochets, chain 5, that works as an extended double crochet or a treble crochet, and a chain 1. And then you can do 11 more extended double crochets or 12 treble crochets. So that's treble crochets with a chain 1 in between. And I think I'm going to do extended double crochets on the next row, because I feel like that's a little easier than fiddling with these treble crochets, but the trebles look nice. So here we go. We are going to, for row 2, chain 6 to begin. And the chains that you begin each row with are always going to increase by 1 chain per row. So in row 1 it was 5. That counts as a extended double crochet or a treble and a chain 1. For row 2 you start with a chain 6. Starts with the same stitch, so a treble or an extended double crochet, but chain 2. And then the next row it'll be chain 7 because now there's 3 chains, and then chain 8 because there's 4 chains, etc. So 4 chains at the beginning of every row count as the tall stitch, and then all the other chains on top of that are just the extra little chains in between your posts. A little sip of my tea. Hi everybody! So glad you could join us for an evening spooky live stream. We are making our new giant spider a web. Okay, so after you chain 7 or 6, I should say, to start row 2, I'm going to go back to the extended double crochets. You work all of your tall stitches directly into the tall stitch of the row before. So chain 2 now in between, and this is how our giant web starts to grow. So now in between my tall stitches there are 2 chains. Every stitch, tall stitch, is worked into the top of the tall stitch from the previous row, and there's almost no thinking going on here. You're just looking for the next tall stitch. Chain 2, next tall stitch. I'm using the extended double crochet now. It's just so much easier to do with this blanket yarn. And it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And you can just kind of keep this pattern going. There's no real end if you don't want to, but I'm going to do at least 7 rows because I think that will be big enough to not only hang, but also for my spider to kind of look like he's, you know, like it's kind of to scale. Big yarn, big hook. Got to get used to it. There we go. Well, hello, summer. Summer is always in spooky season. How is it going, Miss Summer? Summer has been a member for 78 months. Goodness me. Thank you, Summer. Summer says, I feel like I've missed every live for like 2 months. I've been really busy around here lately. Hope all is well. Everything is so much better now that summer's in the house. Summer's in the house just in time for fall. Thank you, Summer. All right, guys, let's count them up. Let's make sure I've got 12. I want to make sure I always have 12 posts in every row, and then the chains in between will keep getting larger and larger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 12. Find the 2 chains. So I'm going to come back 2 chains. I'm looking for the top of the 4th chain to join the row in. And don't worry, it will get wider and wider. I love this sort of squishiness. This is going to it's going to hang. I wonder if the double crochet would be better. No, I really like the extended double crochet. Let's chain. Sip of my tea. Are these stitches too tall? What do you guys think? Are they too tall? I don't know. I kind of like that. It's also got a bit of a spinning effect happening. All right, let's do one more row with these tall stitches, and it'll be chain 3 in between each post, and we'll see how we're doing. The blanket yarn is kind of squishy, so it can kind of throw off. Like this will look a little bit different than if you're using like a regular acrylic or like a smoother yarn. So if you're doing exactly the same thing as me, you might notice that yours sort of looks a little bit different. So don't be surprised. Now again, this is like, consider this more of a craft as opposed to a specific crochet project. What we want eventually is a big, droopy, drapey spider's web. For the row 3, we're going to chain 7 to begin. The first 4 stitches count as the tall stitch, and the next 3 stitches are the chains in between. And it's the same thing. You're looking for the top of the next big stitch, and I'm still going to use that extended double crochet because it's just a little easier to manage than the trebles. 3 chains now in between posts. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to try not to be too tight while I crochet. I want my chains to be nice and loose. Yeah, already you're getting bigger and bigger spaces in between. One, 2, 3. Keep your chains loose. That will help your spider web have a nice sort of drapey feel to it. 3 chains now for row 3 in between each of the big posts. You can use whatever post stitch you like, whether it be a treble crochet or an extended double crochet. I think you could even get away with just a regular double crochet if you wanted, if the taller stitches are just a little bit too much for you. Like I said, this is less a proper crochet project and more of us crafting with yarn and a hook here. I want something that approximates a big drapey spider web by the time I am finished. So the looser I am with my chains, the more drapey this is going to be. And I'm still wondering, yeah. Let's pull it out and do it again. There we go. You should have The same number of post stitches in each row, it's just the chains in between that change. And that should be 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Remember, your big chain at the beginning counts as your post stitch and the first few chains. 1, 2, 3. You're always looking for the fourth, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, fourth stitch of that initial chain to join to the top of that fourth stitch, because that represents the top of the tall stitch. Yes, 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 yes. So what we're doing is we are gradually getting bigger. I recommend making your chains as loose as possible. And you can use that treble crochet or the extended double crochet, or maybe even just the regular double crochet. Let me try a row with just double crochet. So for row 4, I'm going to chain 8 to begin. That's 8. I give myself a little more slack. Now I made 8. That will count as a treble crochet chain 4 or an extended double crochet chain 4, but I'm going to use double crochet for a couple stitches and just see how that looks. So just regular double crochet, and if I don't like it, I'm going to pull it out and go back to my extended double crochet. When you are making something like a mandala, 4 chains in between, it's always good to kind of just pause and see if you like the way it's coming together. Are your stitches too tall? Are they too short? Are there enough chains in between your post stitches to get the right kind of look, to have it lay flat? So even the double crochet isn't too bad at this level. Double crochet, double crochet might be all right. Yes, I like this. Double crochet might be the better height. I think I'm going to go with the double crochet. All right. You can continue using whichever stitch you want, but because I'm using this blanket yarn, so if you're using a regular acrylic or you're using a couple strands held together and you get you're getting a really nice open look going, continue using whatever tall stitch you want. Just remember, whatever row you're on indicates the number of chains in between your post stitch. So if it's row 1, there's 1 chain in between your posts. If it's row 2, there's 2 chains in between your posts. If it's row 3, there's 3 chains in between your posts. If it's row 4, there's 4 chains in between your posts, etc. I'm going to take this out now and I'm going to try it with the double crochet instead. I really like where it's going. I intend to do about 7 rows, and this is 1, 2, 3, almost 4 rows now. So almost double that, and I think would be a nice, just like a nice table topper. I might go another row just to see it looking bigger to hang in the window. So here we go. I'm going to take this out, double crochet. I'm going to redo it with double crochets. And like I said, you can continue to use the trebles or the extended double crochets if you feel it's working better for you. This is how we build a web. And it depends on the yarn you're using. So if your hook and yarn is a little bit skinnier or thinner than mine, you might feel that the tall stitches work really well. Otherwise, you can take it out and try double crochets if you just didn't like the way it was landing. This is how we work on mandala. Mandalas are tricky. Round crochet is tricky. I'm going to stick with this chain 6 ring. So chain 6, join with a slip stitch to make the first ring. And now I'm going to chain 4 to begin. So one chain less because I'm using the double crochet now instead of the trebles or the extended doubles. But I don't think in the long run that would really matter much. So I'm going to do with 4 chains to begin instead of 5. And then double crochet chain 1 11 times. And I will get right back up to row 4 relatively quickly. Double crochets are a little faster to do. right, that should be 12. Let me double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 double crochets with a chain 1 in between, and the chain 4 at the beginning counts as a double crochet chain 1. So chain 4 and then 11 double crochet chain 1s. Find the third chain up and slip stitch to join. So if you're using double crochets, there we go. That's our beginning, and here we go. It's going to be 5 chains to begin row 2. So that's 3 chains to count as the double crochet, and then 2 chains to count as the chains in between. Look for the next stitch, double crochet chain 2. Look for the next stitch, double crochet chain 2. Look for the next stitch, double crochet chain 2. And so on. So I'll have a chain 5 to begin row 2, and 11 double crochets with chain 2s in between. And then we will, I'm trying to make my chains a little on the loose side so that the whole thing kind of lays on the flat. Lynx is enjoying watching the process. You know what? The process is I enjoy watching other people's processes. I'm glad you guys are happy to sit here with me. This is me making a spooky web on the night before Halloween. I kind of think that's fun. I'm looking out at the sun setting and everybody's little lights slowly poking on. Find the top of the chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and join with a slip stitch. There should be 2 chains in between each of your posts. There we go. What do you think? Maybe? Yeah, I think he likes it. I'm gonna have a sip of my tea. I like cozy spooky too, Maeve. Okay. We are moving on to row 3. That means there are 3 chains in between each of our posts. I'm going to continue with the double crochet. So 3 chains for my double crochet and then 3 more chains for the chains in between. So that's how I start row 3. That's a chain of 6. And then double crochet chain 3 into each of those remaining 11 stitches all the way around. Double crochet. And then chain 3. I'm trying to keep my chains on the loose side. Double crochet, chain 3. Much better with the blanket yarn. Double crochet, chain 3. And then when you get to the end of the row, I do recommend just counting. Make sure you've got 12 posts and 12 big spaces in between them. Because as it gets larger and larger, it can sometimes be easy to lose track of where you are. Oh, yes. 1, 2, 3, find the third chain from the beginning chains, slip stitch to join. It should want to lay out kind of flat. So, the double crochets are doing it for me with the blanket yarn. And if you feel the double crochets are too short, then try the extended double crochets or try treble crochets. And just so you know, if you start with 1 stitch, like doubles, and you're like, I think they're too short, you don't have to take it out. You can just start using extended double crochets or trebles. If you start with trebles or extended double crochets and you're like, I think they're too tall, you can switch to double crochets and you can switch back and forth. Doesn't matter. When you're working in the round like this, you're constantly adjusting for your tension, for how the yarn or the pattern works. So, you know, you can feel free to kind of jump back and forth between those stitches. And I feel like double crochets or the next one up, the extended doubles or the trebles, are the right stitch, and you might just want to move between them. That's entirely up to you, but I think that makes it much easier. So that was row 3. Row 4, Chain 3 for me, that represents the double crochet, but now we're on to row 4, so there's 4 chains in between our posts, so I chain an extra 4. And off I go. Double crochet, chain 4 now in each post all the way around, keeping those chains nice and loose. Row 4 is where it really starts to look like you're working on a spider web. Little tappity tappity spider feet. If you're in or popping out, don't worry. This will have proper timestamps once today's tutorial is finished and processed. The earlier tutorial we did today, which was the giant spider, is linked in the description box, and the last time I checked it was still kind of processing, so you might not see the timestamps yet. You might not be able to see the chat replay, if that even still works. I sort of struggle to get the chat replay to work for some reason, but it will have timestamps as soon as it's finished processing. And you can pop back and forth and get the row you need. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing with this tutorial. The timestamps will include things like, you know, where I started with the double crochets, where I started with the trebles, etc. So if you want to see it with the different size stitches, then I'll have all of that indicated as different chapters. And you can just wand over, or, you know, kind of use your finger if you're on a device. Just move the cursor back and forth, and that little red line at the bottom of the video will show you what all the chapters are, and they're all going to be labeled, so you can go backwards or forwards as necessary. Okay. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Find the third chain for me because it's the double crochet I'm using, and slip stitch to join. Yes, looking rather like looking very spider webby, I will say. So that's row 4. Row 4 has 4 chains between posts. Row 3 has 3 chains between posts. Row 2 has 2 chains between posts, etc. So row 5, 5 chains between posts. Row 6, 6 chains between posts, 5, 6. Row 7, 7 chains between posts. You get the idea. This is looking like a nice cozy spider web. It's a cozy spider web. This is going to look neat on the middle of the kitchen table, I think. So beginning row 5, chain 3 counts as a double crochet. Row 5 has 5 chains in between, so I have to chain an additional 5. That's 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 8 chains to begin row 5, and then double crochet chain 5 into each existing post. I'm going to try and keep my chains a little loose because that helps this get sort of lay flat, but also kind of just be a little more drapey, which is really what I'm going for here. Enjoy your dinner, enjoy bingo. If you're back before we're done today, then that's fine. But you can always pop in and watch the replay. That is cool too. And like I said, whatever I manage to get going here today, I will have a written pattern later this evening or possibly up tomorrow in the Etsy shop. So if you want to pick up a written pattern for our giant spider and his house, his web that we're making, then that will be available in our Etsy shop. Probably, let's say tomorrow. Let's say tomorrow sometime on Halloween, which is incidentally also Friday. I love it when Halloween lands on a Friday. I guess it's cool when it lands on a Saturday too, but I just love it when it lands on a Friday. It sets the whole weekend up to be fun. All Hi, Barbara. I am using a 10mm hook. This is a Clover Amour, and the Clover seems to think it's either an N or a P. They've put both letters on it for some reason. But you could use whatever hook you feel suits the yarn you've chosen. So for example, if you're using a different kind of size 6 super bulky, or you're holding a couple strands of regular yarn together, whichever hook gives you a nice, gentle, loose sort of stitch. You don't want your stitches to be very tight for this project because you want your spider's web to be drapey. You want it to kind of lay flat. So the bigger the hook, the better. The bigger the hook, the better. When you get back around to the beginning, if you're using the double crochet stitch, you're looking for the 3rd chain to join. If you're using a taller stitch like the extended double or the treble, you're looking for the 4th chain up to join. So 3rd chain for double crochet, 4th chain for the taller stitches. That was row 5 with 5 chains in between each of my posts. Row 6, I'll have 6 chains in between each of my posts, and this is becoming a very cozy little spider web for my sweet little spider. This will definitely not be going outside. This will definitely be staying inside, and now I'm feeling bad for my little spider. I don't want him to get wet and cold. Hello, Cherry! Cherry's in the house! All right, that was row 5. Row 6, chain 3. That counts as my double crochet stitch. Again, if you're using the extended double crochet or the treble, chain 4. And now, because it's row 6, I need 6 chains in between my stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 9 chains to begin the row. And then double crochet chain 6 into each post, each stitch from the previous row. This is gobs of fun because it's just sort of silly. You don't have to take it seriously, which is another way I kind of think of it like I'm crafting. I'm glad you got the live notification, Cherry. At least that means that somebody's notifications are working. Pam says she's done a small web with size 3 yarn and a smaller hook. Yes, last year I made a couple using thread. I really love the way those look. They make really pretty coasters. They just make very sort of delicate, dangly little things. I've made a lot of webs over the years. They're fun. I've made them to be appliques. I actually have a funky jacket with a spider's web on the back of it. I really like that web, or that jacket. And I wanted to try something that was a little more toy-like. You know, I feel like I kind of am, this is technically decoration, but it's also kind of toy-like to me. It's like, if I was a little kid, I'd want to play with this. This feels like a little silly spider friend with his soft web house. And I kind of like the idea of just using what I had in the stash. Double crochet, chain 6, because I'm on row 6. As it gets bigger, if you have trouble kind of keeping track of where you're at, you might want to use a yarn, or I should say stitch marker, and put the stitch marker on your first little, like for example, I'd go 1, 2, 3, here's where I'm going to join the row. I'd put the stitch marker there, so by the time I get around to it, I don't get lost, because you see how it gets kind of looser and looser and bigger, and it's kind of easy to lose track of where you are. So as it gets bigger, you might want to employ your stitch marker, but you don't need to if you're able to kind of see where you're at. If you're confused, just pause, for example, and when you think you're at the end of the row, and count. You should have 12 posts every single row. And remember, those first big chains counts as your first post, your double crochet, your extended double crochet, or your treble, and then all your chains in between. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I'm still on track. That was row 6. How are we looking here? So row 6, that's a nice, getting bigger. I think I want to go bigger. I want to go at least 1 or 2 more rows. Yeah, he needs a bigger one. So I'm going to go row 7. To begin the row, 3 chains counts as my double crochet. And now because it's row 7, I want 7 chains in between. So I'm going to count 7. And then I think, just to make it a little easier to see, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to put my stitch marker on that 3rd chain because that's technically what would be the top of my double crochet. That's where I'll be joining the row. And then it's double crochet chain 7 in each of these stitches. Double crochet chain 7. And make sure you don't accidentally skip one of your posts. I like to just sort of work flat on the table like this and keep sort of turning it as I go. I'll give myself a little more slack here. Double crochet chain 7. Croca says, if you did this in macrame cord, it could hang outdoors. Yes, absolutely. It would also have a very different feel to it. Macrame cord is kind of stiff and strong, so it might not, you just want to maybe use a slightly larger hook so that it drapes, it continues to drape. This blanket yarn is very, it's kind of stretchy, so it's going to have a little bit more give than macrame yarn, but I would definitely put macrame yarn, or I would use macrame string if I was going to put it outside before I would use this outside. So yes, good tip, Crocus. Cherry's asking, what level is alpaca? Alpaca is our is the first level of membership. There is alpaca, merino, silk, and vicuña. And they are all very nice kinds of wool. Trying to keep my chains on the loose side. Double crochet. I'm on row 7, so I have 7 chains in between. I think this is turning out pretty cool too. I like it. So there's my next double crochet is up here. Keeping it flat on the surface definitely helps to keep control of it and keep track of where I am. But I'm still going to count, make sure I have all the posts I'm supposed to have when I get to my stitch marker. Yes, Cherry, I think putting it on the back of the couch would look really, really good. I think it would be kind of, if I made it big enough, I could wear it as a vest. That would be kind of neat. All right, that brings me back to the beginning. Let's make sure I've got 12 still. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep, so joining in that 3rd chain. That is 7 rows. Here we go. Oh, that's nice. Let's go row 8, and then row 9 will be my last row. So for row 8, I'm going to chain 3 to start. 1, 2, 3. stick my stitch marker on that third chain. That counts as my double crochet, and now it's row 8, so there are 8 chains in between posts, so I'm going to chain an additional 8. And then double crochet, chain 8 in each of those posts all the way around. This is definitely looking webby. And I'm just going to keep it on the counter here while I turn it. And that will help keep it from getting all tangled up on me. So I spin it to the next double crochet. This is so soft. This is the nicest spider web I've ever encountered. I think if I accidentally ran into this in the middle of the night, I wouldn't mind too much. It feels more like a blanket than it does a spider web. Yes, blanket yarn is really quick, Crocus. It's kind of a pleasure to use, really. It's soft, it's warm. It's very forgiving. You can pull it out. If you like make an error, you can tug it out and it doesn't like tangle itself. Almost kind of mesmerizing when you work in a spiral like this. And one more. So that is row 8 done. My last chain of 8. And before I join right there at that stitch marker, oh yeah, this is so fun. And of course, if you want to, you can put it up and pin it at every single intersection, like, or I should say the top of every single one of those posts, and it'll really make it look like that web effect. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Awesome. All right, one more row. It's the finishing row, and we're going to put little tiny anchors at the top of each of these posts. So much like the sort of the coaster version I made that's a lot smaller, I want to have a little kind of it's like almost like a little anchor or a little post. I almost picture, you know, the spider kind of going in and like affixing a little post while he makes his main strings, which are supposed to be these represent like the main kind of like long forms before he starts stringing all of the stuff in between. So I'm kind of picturing him kind of knotting these strings to something. So that's why I like to add a little kind of a sort of a little whoop at the end of each post. So I'm going to do that for row 9. I'm going to give myself some slack here. Okay, first off for row 9, we are going to chain 6 only. So the first 3 counts as the double crochet. Now again, if you're using the taller stitch like the treble or the extended double, chain 4. But then you're only going to chain another 3 on top of that because we're going to make our first little like anchor thing. You're going to slip stitch into the second and third chains from the hook. So skip the first chain, slip stitch into the second chain, slip stitch into the third chain, And now you can make your 9 chains. This will be the number of chains in between each post because we're on row 9. So from there you can chain 9. And then double crochet in the top of the next stitch. And then we're going to make another one of these little anchors. You see how it sort of sits up like that? We're going to make another one of these little anchors. So we chain 3, skip the first chain, slip stitch into the second chain, slip stitch into the third chain. That brings us back down to the top of that double crochet we made. And then you can chain 9. And here we go. You know what? Before I forget, I'm going to just mark that first. That's the first one I did. That's the first post of the row. I don't want to like get carried away and miss it. So 9 chains between our posts. This is getting quite long. Double crochet into the top of the next double crochet, chain 3, slip stitch into the second chain from the hook, slip stitch into the third chain from the hook. It just creates this little kind of anchor point at the top of these, what do we call these strings? They're like, I guess they're kind of warp and weft strings. These are warp and these are weft, I guess. I don't know. You'd have to ask the weaver himself, the spider. I'm not sure. And then chain 9 in between your posts, and then it's time for the next post. So double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 3, slip stitch into the second chain, slip stitch into the third chain, and chain 9. And continue. Double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 3. Slip stitch into the second chain, slip stitch into the third chain. That's our little anchor. Chain 9. Oh yeah, this is cute. It doesn't even fit on the screen. I'm gonna have to take a picture of it and share it later so you guys can sort of see the whole thing, especially with the spider sitting on it. I might spread it out on the table because we have a dark table, so that would look good underneath it. Chain 3, slip stitch into the second chain, slip stitch into the third chain. That's the little top of the anchor. Chain 9. And continue. Double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 3. Slip stitch into the second chain, slip stitch into the third chain, and chain 9. Joanne is back. Hello, glad to hear dinner was good. I grabbed a bowl of soup before we went live for the second time today. This was fun. I kind of like this one big project broken into 2 simple little live streams, and gives us all kind of a chance to have a break and then come back and hang out a little more. Chain 9. And coming around the edge here, my little stitch marker tells me that it's the end of the row is coming up. Don't forget to put that little chain 3 slip stitch into the second and third chain from the hook little topper. Don't forget to put that on top of your double crochets or your post stitches when you finish them. It's like the little anchors. If you were going to sort of pin this into place somewhere, you could literally put the pins right through the tops of these things. Hi, Kathy. We have had a couple of lives today. It's the day before Halloween, and I just had some extra decor I wanted to get done, and I thought it would be fun to hang out with everybody. And of course it is. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 9 chains and double crochet. And I've got 9 more chains to go here. Okay, so I just want to make sure I haven't missed any. So there's my first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and there's 12. Join with a slip stitch to that third chain right where the stitch marker was, and that should be that. This is quite a large web. Of course, you could keep going. So if you didn't want row 9 to be your last row, then you wouldn't have done the little, you know, the little stubs. That kind of indicates that it's the last thing. You would just kind of continue this pattern. Post stitches sit on top of post stitches from the previous row. Whatever row number you're on is the number of chains in between posts, and you just keep going until it's as big as you want. And then on your last row, you would do your, you know, double crochet, or you do your post stitch, and then you go chain 3, slip stitch into the second and third chain before you chain your chains in between. And that just kind of gives you like a little anchoring thing. This is so much fun. Okay, when you are finished, I am definitely finished, slip stitch to join the row and fasten off. And when you're weaving in a tail, especially this blanket yarn, but when you're weaving in a tail on something this open and lacy, don't stress it too much. I think what I like to do is, because the blanket yarn is very grabby, if you're using like a regular acrylic or something, then you're probably going to want to focus on, like, you know, getting into these vertical stitches, but because you don't want it to unravel on you. But this stuff is pretty sticky. So if I go all the way one way underneath some of the chains and then go all the way back, it shouldn't want to come out. And there's Crocus in the chat with a black cat. How perfect. Thank you, Crocus, for the super sticker. I love it. I love black cats. I had a black cat once and he was so sweet. I am a huge fan of cats. Huge fan of cats and dogs. Kind of love all animals, to be perfectly honest. Did I not make that big enough? I guess I didn't. All right, let's try that again. Let's try that again. I want to get that underneath this one and this one. I made my chains in between stitches nice and loose, which is great, but then weaving in that tail, I have to be a little more cognizant of that looseness. All right, same thing, double back. I'm not worried too much about this because it is decor. It is going to sit on either the table or hang in the window. Not quite sure yet. I want my spider to be kind of hanging out there as well. There we go. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay. Depending on the yarn you're using, you might want to do a little light blocking. If you are using a stiffer yarn, then you can get it wet and hang it up and let it just dry draped over something like a stick hanging outside, or just pin it up and let it hang. I don't think there's anything wrong with it getting more and more droopy. That's kind of the point. Spiders' webs are often very droopy in different places. So if you want to get this kind of wet and let it drip, drip, dry, then you will get an even more sort of realistic looking spider web. I think 9 rows is quite nice for the spider and his buddy here. They can have a little cup of tea. I think that's a good size for these guys. And I also feel like this would look very nice as a centerpiece on my table. I think if I was going to use it in conjunction with actually eating, like I would probably have it sitting there while the table isn't in use, if I don't have it hanging in the wall or hanging on the front porch or in the window or something. But if I was going to use this as an actual centerpiece, I think I would go with a size 4 or 5 cotton mercerized yarn and a larger hook, like a 6.5, like a K hook. And it would be a little bit smaller than this, but at least it would be thinner and you could sort of like have things sitting on it, like, you know, a bowl or a centerpiece or whatever. So I think that would look really good if you wanted to try it as a centerpiece. I might try one. I might try one with some 24/7 and just see how that looks, because I really love this. I have a spooky tablecloth, which I think a big white spider's web would look really neat on. So anywho, there we go. A big spider's web for our very large spiders. A 2-part live stream for the day before Halloween. Thank you guys so much for being here. Really appreciate all of your company and your sweet comments and your support. You guys are fantastic. It's also just really nice to hang out with some crafty friends as the sun sets on another day and Halloween is on its way. Tomorrow is Friday. We will see you for a special Halloween event. Stay tuned. I'll be posting information about that in the posts tab. And I'll also be posting some photographs of how this looks. You can't really see the whole thing on the camera, but it does look very webby. So I'm quite pleased with the way that turned out. And it's nice and soft. I think if I was going to be playing with this, like if I had some kids over, I'd be totally happy with them playing with this. This just feels nice and soft and goofy, and it's a fun thing for the little these giant spiders to play in. All right, guys, have a great evening. Stay safe, stay crafty. If you're back later on, the videos should finish processing. They'll have chapters you can zip in, zip out, move forward and backwards to whichever row you need. The chapters will all be labeled for you. And we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night and spooky day cometh. Bye, guys.